going.
Okay, confirmed. All right, so the agenda is roughly questions and picking up on where we are. It'll be kind of fun because my questions basically are, I'll just pass the mic to Chip and Carrie and Rick. And then other questions, please, task force members and community members, please chime in. But the biggest one celebration and huge success is the fire truck was delivered. So congrats on those. That I know that was like a paperwork melee. But
didn't they already show it off at the high school football game?
Did it? I like it.
I think they may have.
No, they didn't get it to the game because it wasn't put into service until yet. I think tomorrow is the day it goes into service.
Okay.
But it made it in time for the big annual events. Everybody got to ooh and ah over it on Saturday.
Yes. Well done. Well done. So as far as like financial task force related discussion or any actions that we need to, or can we kind of put that to bed or, okay, great.
Yes, all done on that one. There's nothing else we need to do.
Make our
Wonderful.
first payment.
Make
got
our
their
first
first payment.
payment on December or whatever that was, Chip. That's right.
Awesome. Oh, that was a question of if we pay this year and then if it's a 9-year versus 10 years. So, okay, awesome. Great news. Great update. Thank you. Next big thing that I have not checked my emails about, but the audit. Has the final one been delivered? I don't know if they've gotten back to me about presenting on it. So apologies for just bringing up a topic and not having any substantive information around, but I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that. Yeah, I see Chip. Go ahead.
I got it.
Great.
So the final draft got received yesterday. I think their intention is to have me skim through it again. The only difference between the draft I had and the final draft is the MD&A has been updated based upon what Carrie, Rick, and I did. And I see they just inserted it. I did ask yesterday if there are any findings, and the answer I got was there's not a single audit, so there are no findings. Well, that's sort of nice, except he did say there's going to be an SAS 115 letter, which is the letter of deficiencies addressed to the city council and to management, which they state they do have deficiencies. But overall, everything is better than it was in 24 by a long shot. So,
And Chip, I misunderstood. So does that letter of deficiencies not get included in the actual audit? Then it comes as a separate event?
it comes as a separate event, from what I gather, yes.
Okay. And I wrote to them again, Carter, and reinforced that we want them both to come and give a report to this group, preferably next Wednesday morning. And then also I would like to schedule them for, at least 20 minutes on the November 3rd meeting as well for the city council.
Okay.
And Andy did respond to that, though I think he was saying the 22nd maybe was for the task force. So I'll see if I can dig that out again.
Yes, that's what I was expecting, that we would meet with him on at this meeting next week as a task force.
Okay.
What kind of things should we find out, or what normally should we anticipate from a letter of deficiency? What kind of things come through in those, just in general terms?
General terms, internal controls, which we've already talked about needing to be improved anyway. That I'm quite sure what they're going to bring up is there were still many adjustments required for the financials to be accurate. Some they made, some we offered already. But again, the acknowledgement that we as a group responded to all their requests, and that for that 18-month period, there was not somebody honchoing the general ledger because Rebecca was gone. And so I think they're fairly confident that they're still going to make these statements. Because they're not findings, we do not have to reply with a response to them. But certainly should take it to heart and take action, which we've already begun to do anyway.
All right. Yes, confirming. So Carrie, just to read out what she put in the group chat, could be available for the 29th financial task force. And then the following Monday, it looks like, which is the 1st of November, the first meeting in November for city council. And I also see that. So, and they have asked for it to be on Zoom. So I'll pick up, I've started this email chain and I'll get back to them and make sure that happens. So that'll be a really important task force meeting for sure. And I'll give lots of advance notice of that. And I think I'll also pull in the community members that have a strong suit in reviewing audits that this particular person that I'm referencing wanted to just basically be used, or not be used, that sounds bad, but like be involved when their skill set is actually best suited. So anyways.
So, Carter, I think we can be public about Betty's name. She's not interested in being a part of the task force, but I think she'd be fine with us letting folks know that we're talking about Betty Caldwell, who was a short-term CFO for the hospital shortly after the Caldwells arrived here 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Silly question. When they do this review, would it make sense for the directors of the different departments be on that call, or how are they going to get this communication? Because I think it's important for them to understand what's going on to a certain extent, and hearing, kind of having the principal talk might be a good idea for them to sit in on that conversation as well.
I think that's a great idea. Could we just invite the department heads to that meeting on the 29th at 8 a.m.?
Yeah, I can do that. Or
Yeah, they're going to have to execute on what's going on with a lot of these not findings, but what's discussed in this meeting. So they should be aware of what's being, better firsthand than second is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Agreed. And plus, if it's around internal controls and how the city operates, I think them understanding the reason why is helpful. So I don't know if Rick's giving directions or talking. Oh, no, he's going straight ahead. I bet that's a direction.
He's muted at the moment.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And then that's a huge thing. The audit and then a scheduling, a review. I don't know if he just did, that's more direction or just signaling celebration that we have it middle of October and we're able to pivot. And then we'll talk about chart of accounts coming up soon. That'll be on the docket. So a lot of things are going to fold into place.
So
I have one other quick question. Chip, I think it's appropriate for us to send this document without any further review to the folks at Pasumsic. Is that your understanding as well?
The final draft?
Yes, the one they sent yesterday. Can we send that on to Ellen and Kate?
If you so desire, it's okay with me.
Yeah. So, Carrie, I think you were copied on that. Is that right?
No.
Okay. Chip, if you could do that, then Chip, I'd be grateful. Just send it to Ellen and Kate and let them know that I'm occupied this morning. I'd be grateful.
Okay.
Thank you, Carter. That's it on the audit for me.
So Carter, are we looking at the 29th then for the meeting with the auditors? Is that the date? Okay.
Yes.
And Chip, to actually just go one step further, it seems like it's also appropriate at this point for us to send a copy of that audit to all the members of the task force, so they've got some time to try and read and digest it before we meet on the 29th.
Okay. So if you're in the email list for this, the one Lori sent at 5:22, 2 hours ago,
Okay.
I'll just reply and attach the final draft there.
We're on it.
So that will include Geez. James, Harold, me, Susie, Carter, Rick, Pam, and Carrie.
Good. And as a courtesy, let's include Ann Chiarello. So Ann, if Chip doesn't have her email, please make sure you share it with Ann as well.
I'll get it through Pam anyway.
Oh, you're Ann there. Great. Okay. Thanks, Ann. And just to be clear, Ann and Pam, I'm not considering this public information yet. I want to have the report from the auditor to at least the task force before we try and share this publicly.
Okay.
Understood.
Awesome. Okay. That's truly the big thing, and I'm excited about that. Are there other things that are in my inbox and I'm just not aware of?
Yeah, the other big thing on my mind is I sent a long email on Monday, I believe it was. I can't remember now which day I did it, but to Ellen and Kate and Chip, and I think Carter was on it, and tried to outline the process by which we need to move forward to complete the last two loans, which are the one for the sewer fund and the one for the general fund. And Ellen has responded to me and said that my process that I've laid out seems reasonable to her. Basically, the timing is that we need to try and get them the 10-year cash flow projections for both the general fund and the sewer fund that Carrie and Chip, and with a little bit of help from Tom and myself, have been working on as quickly as possible. And a copy of the audit, which they will now have, and the terms. And so, Chip, my question for you, and I'll just finish the process and then go back to my question for you, Chip. So the process would be that they will go to their recommending committee, which is not the Passumpsic board, and review what we're asking for and give us and they'll have the audit and the terms. And those cash flow documents, and then they will come back with any questions in advance of the recommendation they will make to the board. If they don't have major questions, they will draft potential documents, draft documents, and we will share those with our attorneys for the attorneys to review. And then the board will meet to approve. And then following the attorney's review, the attorneys will help us, hopefully no later than November 3rd. That's my projected date at this point. We will put it on the agenda to go over both of those loans and approve and sign all the executing documents. And I expect we will have somebody from SPNF present so that we make sure we get it all right this time in the first effort.
I hope.
So, and then Chip, so the question for you, Chip, is how do we get to the actual number that we believe is what we need to borrow? Because we have permission for up to 1 million on the sewer fund and up to 1.8 on the general fund, but I'm not sure. What I've heard from you is we may not want to go after that full amount.
Correct. So my humble opinion is that for the general fund, it will go for 1.3 million, because that number is justifiable by the municipal tax adjustment budget error that was generated starting in 2018 budget and carried through 2025 and was rectified in the 26 fiscal year. That's a known quantity, justifiable quantity, and it is a third less than what we're allowed to do, and it'll decrease over the 10-year period the payments significantly. For the sewer, though we're entitled to go after 1 million, at the end of fiscal year 25, sewer owed 873,000 to the general fund. And so it is my opinion that we go for 875,000 for the sewer fund, for the same reason we don't need to take extra to make larger payments, and that the task force for water sewer, whom I met with for the first time last week, simply have got to continue to adjust rates based upon the budget structure that has been adopted and has got to be revised again in order to include this new debt and to balance the budget, which even after we got done, it still wasn't balanced for water or sewer. Water is coming out of its own obligation to the general fund. It ended owing $36,000 at the end of 25. But I think we can cover that through regular cash flow. As well, water tower project in the early 2020s, 21, 22, somewhere in there. There were Aldrich and Elliott bills for engineering related to the water tower project. They got paid out of the general fund. So with the new bond and the fact that it's meant to cover water tower expenditures, working with Frank to come up with the number that was paid with tax dollars towards the water tower project, and I believe it's somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000, that the water bond anticipation note should draw on and return back to the general fund. So between those three amounts, we should be solid with cash again in general government activities. And for our new fire truck debt, we should have enough cash to pay for that and continue down the line with the other things we've got to take care of.
So with Chip, with all these things going on, it sounds like we've kind of, using sailing euphemism, we've kind of stopped the sinking. Okay, we've stopped, water coming in. Now, how do we start pumping water out? And I don't know if this is what is the next goal here, is how do we start, floating the boat again? And Rick, is that going to be the next stage of things here, where it's like, okay, where do we start looking for economies, things of that nature? Is that the next step?
Well, it's certainly a part of the budgeting process as we look forward to 26, 27 that we're beginning right now. But I'm intrigued to hear anything Chip might offer us as kind of general wisdom about how, starting at this basically zero cash position, now how do we begin to actually, it's going to involve creating a 5-year capital plan for sure that needs to be presented along with the budget for next year, so that we can begin to include in our budgeting the capital items, planning for the capital items that we're going to need to take on, since we've basically gutted what small amount of money we had managed to sort of protect. It wasn't protected, but we thought it was. So Chip, do you have other thoughts about that beyond the creation of a capital projection and matching it to our budget for next year?
Yes. So I've already started working on a new chart of accounts design that is close to, but different than what we've been doing. And what I've spent the last Thursday, Friday, yesterday, was going through primarily the budgetary accounts, revenues and expenditures, and updating them in such a way that you could run a budget status report of revenues and expenditures for everything to do with Department 50 through 59, which is Public Works. And that in so doing, that presentation of what does a department get for income, what's it have for expenditures across all funds will flow and be answerable by inquiry into the chart of accounts. Right now, we can't do that. As well, all of the expenditures, some almost 2,700 lines, I set up a new set of expense objects such that if you want to ask the question of what are salaries across the board, every salary line has an object 10. And that has been a note, a wedge that, you can't just ask the financials because salaries are all over the place. And then I've created an object list to work with, and there's really a lot more control in if someone's going to add an account now, they got to read the list and follow a structure to add an account. the mentality of I want the account to appear between these two accounts, just give it a number that does, has to change because we need the uniformity to be able to report back out of the system by inquiry. So I've gotten through most of that with revenues and expenditures across all funds. It's not in a state where I can start running financial reports because though I have done it in Excel, I have not actually done it within the software to define the new chart. My intention is to do that locally on my system and rifle out a series of reports so that you can look at it and begin to make some sense out of it. It was quite interesting going through and just seeing almost how randomized the numbers were. So that's been an extensive amount of my time, but that leads to I expanded the fund digits from 1 digit to 2 because with 1 digit you can use 0 through 9 and A through Z. Well, we sure do not want to get into letters. So by expanding it, we can now have up to 99 funds. One of those funds or more should be set up in general government types so that instead of it just being in a spreadsheet, we can have a paving or resurfacing reserve fund that we transfer value into. It is not on a spreadsheet saying there's 300 grand available. It's in the accounting system as a fund dedicated for purpose. Same thing can be done for fire equipment, for highway equipment, for recreation equipment, anything like that. I normally would renumber funds such that the water and sewer would be down at the end in enterprise funds instead of remaining as 08 and 09 as they are now. But our historical knowledge allows us to put a 0 in front of our existing funds and literally come close to what the numbers are we're looking for historically known. It is going to be quite different, like for Tom, because he knows his numbers. Stacy knows the numbers, and they're going to have to relearn a new series. But I think that when they see the logic behind the new series, they're going to say, well, why the hell didn't we do this a long time ago? So that's where I've been focusing on, is trying to get the new design put in place, and I've done the renumbering, and then I want it reviewed from what it looks like, because individuals may say, well, I would prefer that, for example, the insurance benefits for an employee, health, dental, life, and disability all have the same object code but use a different sub-object. And I added a sub-object section which didn't exist before. And that's why the object numbers were all over the place, because you couldn't repeat an object and have another section. So that's what I've been working on, as well as continuing review of the audit.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chip. There's two great things that come from that I'm just going to share, and then they can be corrected and then others join in. But is that is exactly the strategy that the city should be using to have, like we've been saying, sinking fund for these things, but that is the actual way to protect and slowly build upon these funds that we need for projects. So that's wonderful to hear that that can be solved moving forward, because I know that that's a great need for our department heads to be able to plan for these larger multi-year projects and or equipment. And then the second thing is, it sounds, because this is something that's going to definitely shift the practice of staff in the city, if this October 29th meeting should also, we can talk about the audit findings and then maybe tease in, I don't know if you think the chart of accounts will be ironed out in a couple weeks, but that could be a time to just like introduce and say, this is how and why we're shifting things. and give a bereavement, or if Rick, you think that is better at a Tuesday check-in with department heads. I'm just realizing that those kind of flow together. And if we do really want their involvement in the audit review or discussion, then, you know, it's just like an opportunistic and slash related conversation. So we can think on that, but I think, yeah, folding them in is going to be key to success.
So yeah, Carter, I think that's a great idea, Carter, but I don't recommend that we do it combined at the meeting on the 29th. If Chip has something to begin to share next week, I'd like to actually begin the process sooner rather than
Okay.
later, because it impacts the department heads will be budgeting.
Please take the parking ticket. Better follow the
Awesome. Agreed. So yeah, it can be sooner than later. Yeah, Lori, go ahead.
Now, I just have a question, and this goes back to something Chip said early on in the conversation, because I want to make sure that I understand. So apparently there was funds used for the water tower project, obviously before the bond vote. You have to take those funds from somewhere to get those projects started. And I'm guessing that the reason that we didn't really find any of that, or maybe it wasn't put in the right places, because here we are 5 years later. But are there ways to do this better? I mean, I find it very disheartening that here we are working in fiscal year 2026, and we've now got water tower design stuff that was paid for in 2021 that has never been filtered back through even the water budgets. I mean, that kind of bothers me a little bit for that process. I don't know what the normal processes are, but it seems like we're not keeping track of things.
But isn't that what we're just kind of solving for? That's you just find the problem, and now Chip was good enough to kind of explain the answer.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, I mean you just nailed it right there. It's like, okay, guys, you could almost just say when we go into the meeting, this is what's been happening, this is what's going on.
At one,
Yes, and it's more common than not that expenditures are done in one fund, and when reimbursements come in, they end up in a different fund.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when trying to plan a result, and I'll even use the concept of tax increment finance district, we're already discussing it. It's already been determined that we're going to try to develop that using the so-called Walmart funds. But we need to have a fund that is going to track that specific activity for years to come. And so one of the funds to be added to the system and removed from the general fund is the so-called Walmart fund. And it doesn't, again, matter where the hell the cash is. What matters is what's residual in that for activity of accounting.
at one point, as I recall, we had something that I would call an emergency fund, which I assume has been defunded, or funds have been removed from it over the year or two or more. Should we have a fund that's monies in a fund that's available in case there's a disaster or something catastrophic that happens, that we could draw from? At one point, I thought they said it was 200,000, and maybe they needed even more to have this pocket of money available. Do we still have it? Should we have it? Or is it covered some other way?
So I'll go back to the beginning when I started in May. We got to find cash, pay our debts, and that we don't have any cash. So in part of this building, if there was a reserve and it was tracked like I've seen through those spreadsheets, then that's all it was a number on a spreadsheet that management was saying is there, but there wasn't cash to back it. And it wasn't recorded in the financial system. And so that same concept, to have what's known as a rainy day fund, it ends up in the audit being called just general fund surplus. But in the accounting system, we can have a series of accounts that are tracking a reserve for emergencies or rainy day fund. Again, expanding our chart of accounts, though the auditors are going to collapse a bunch of funds into one called just general government activity.
Yeah, I think that's a goal, is to rebuild some kind of disaster fund for budgeting purposes, but disasters happened.
I'd say the last 8 years have been a disaster, but okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, I have with these changes that were going on, do we anticipate any impact on, what with these changes? Do we expect there to be any impact on personnel? I'm thinking specifically around city manager's office, the, town clerk, all that kind of good stuff. Do we need to be preparing for any changes? Is this going to cause anyone to leave?
If they, in my opinion, if they leave of their own choice. So there's more than enough work to be done.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if we had no deficiencies and were able to report, every day at 5 o'clock, a balance sheet that was true and accurate to today, then we might have too much staff. Because as Terry can tell you, there's a lot that goes on in the municipality that the public doesn't see.
I'll just add to that, Hal, part of what I'm learning is that a lot of our employee functions at the moment, requirements around employees, are actually required by contract with the unions. We have a union in the PD and another one in the Public Works Department. Both of those contracts have to be renegotiated this year. I haven't really started. We've reached out to one another, and we're looking toward the end of the fall to try and begin to work on renegotiating those contracts. So the only one that's really in play at the moment is the unfilled city manager position. And at this point, my estimation is that we're looking sometime in the first quarter of next year to agree on a job description, a salary, and begin to move toward hiring. And the expectation would be hopefully to have that person in place at the beginning of the new fiscal year, which buys us a little bit of freedom this year, honestly, on the budget, because we budgeted for that person for half a year. Although I think we did it at a salary that's ridiculously low and isn't going to work for us in the long run. But that money is actually part of why I'm not worried about the ka-ching sound that I hear coming from Nemrick and Chip. We need his work right now, and so some of that money in the budget is going to flow in that direction instead.
Yeah.
We had Chip sitting in the role of city manager, and we might just as well acknowledge that. That's how he's getting paid. That's what we're doing.
Well, actually, Ann, or Pam, I disagree. That Chip is not functioning as city manager. He's functioning as a CFO.
Well,
and
yes.
I'm grateful for it.
Mhm.
And he's given us really good advice. And actually, Chip, I was going to ask you at some point, it would be helpful if you and Carrie could provide at least me and maybe all of us with an accounting of how much we've spent to date, because I expect that's going to come up as we make all of these various reports. And I can't at the moment tell people off the top of my head how much we've spent on your time so far. It would be useful to be able to say that.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, the strangely enough, I've submitted billing on a weekly basis and I haven't gotten receipt that it's been accepted and produced. So I think the last bill the city's probably gotten is over 3 weeks ago. And I was hoping it'd be being billed weekly.
So that may be a mistake on Carrie's and my part. It may be something that's gotten dropped because initially those were going through the treasurer's office, but maybe they're not coming to us. We'll double check on our end.
Yeah, I don't think you've been sent the bills is what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh, you mean from Nemrick? I see.
From Nemrick, I don't think you've been sent the bills.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I expect if there's anything that if the county is good on, it's Chip's bill.
Right.
Pay it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll munch on the audit. That'll be a fun light reading for everybody. Tentative meeting next Wednesday as well. I'm just expect to have some sort of check-in Wednesdays at 8, because this seems to work well, minus some folks, Susie's traveling for work. But I will do my best. Well, I'll share the notes from this meeting with her to make sure she's apprised. But yeah, I don't know. Any other yeah, go ahead,
I
Larry.
just have a quick question. So we talked about the sewer fund and the general fund loans. The water tower, the water
The
tower,
ban,
is that
the
done?
ban did get renewed.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're okay with that.
Yes, except Lori, it's a good question because as soon as we get these two sewer notes done, or sewer and general fund notes done, then we have to move back into the mode of looking at the application, which is due in early December for the Vermont Bond Bank to convert that water tower note to hopefully a 25-year note. So we
Okay.
won't be done all of this emergency finance work until probably middle of December.
And then we'll celebrate.
And then we'll celebrate big time. But I agree, Carter. I think meeting weekly right now is a great idea. Carrie can just put that on the calendar each week and warn it. And we can always cancel it if we don't need it. But I'm finding these meetings are very helpful to check in with you all.
Yep. Same. I appreciate all the work that's going on here in the background.
I'm sorry, any update on the, and my apologies for not looking at it. Any updates on the, what am I thinking of? The work, the segregation of duties and the proposals that we have for processes and those kind of things that Carrie was working on.
I'm going to let Carter update you all about that. I've got to run for my meeting to start here. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right.
Yes. So not a personnel policy. Sorry.
Check
Coming
policy.
at yeah.
And, who's doing what, I think.
Yes. At least the check policy, I'm going to pass the mic to Carrie because she's been actively working on that. And I don't know if there's any update on where you're at.
Yeah, I think we only got feedback on the credit card policy from Carter and Rick. I don't know if that's because no one had a chance to look at it or if there was just no feedback. But basically that's where we're at. So I think the next step would probably be to take it to council, but I don't know if anyone, I guess now is the time to tell me that you do want to give feedback on it. But you just haven't had a chance because it'll probably end up on the 10/20 agenda. If I had to guess. Yeah.
10/20. Okay, I'll recirculate that because I think it was with the appropriation policy that was old, or it's a couple of weeks old by now, buried in your inbox probably. So I can recirculate that. And for some reason, Carrie, I thought that you had we were talking with St. Albans or a sister city and kind of learning.
Yeah, they gave us a recommendation on, they use, I forget what it's called. I think it's through Bank of America. But I think basically they have an overall view where you can kind of see into all of their different department credit cards. And basically it just creates efficiency because you don't have to go through our current process, which is very paper heavy and we're paying a credit card with check. It's more digital. So I have the contact information from someone that they recommended to us. So I'm talking to them, but no super progress to report at the moment. I suspect we'll have, we currently don't have a credit card for upstairs. So I suspect, I don't know. I think the order would probably be that we would adopt the policy, right, and then apply. So I've been kind of reluctant to get into a serious conversation about getting a new credit card without a policy to back it up. Yeah.
Yes, understood. I was just so that's more like a practice and best, but if it doesn't really, if the policy really should be strong and stand alone, and then that should reflect, but I didn't know if you had learned some better. Yeah,
mostly around the payments and the organization of it, I would say, than the actual card itself. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Oh yeah, again, I'll recirculate that and then the audit. So yeah, thank you, Lori, for bringing that back up. I'm definitely still a little bit vacation, but we're getting out of it, but okay. Any other topics that are pressing? No? All right, hearing none. Can I have a motion to end this meeting?
Second.
Gary? All right,
Sounds-
wonderful.
Have a
Thank you,
great day,
task
everyone.
force members. Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks, Jen.
everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.